CRO-AM Connections, connecting with Croatian-Americans through conversation and events to share our culture. Today in our show, we have Marina Artukovic. She is a pre-law junior at UCLA, and she has started the first Croatian-American Student Club at the university. And she's coming to us from Laguna Niguel, California. Thank you all for joining us today, and dobro nam došli. Today on our show, we have Marina Artukovic. She is a pre-law junior at UCLA, and she has started the first Croatian-American Student Club at the university, and she's coming to us from Laguna Niguel, California. Welcome, Marina.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. So, okay, how I came across this, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw the kind of the Insta as Croatian Bruins. And I'm thinking Boston. I had Boston Bruins in my head. I'm like not thinking UCLA, right? But I click on it and I saw UCLA's first Croatian-American Student Club. So I just had to reach out, and you've been gracious to say, yeah, I'll come talk to you about the club and everything else. So I appreciate that. So we have 3 parts to the show. The first part is talking a little bit about family history, your Croatian roots. The second part is about the club and how you organize it, how you started it, and all that good stuff you want to share. And then the last part is just future endeavors, whether they're personal interests or more about the club and what your hope is for the future of the club. And then we'll wrap up. So let's dive in to your family history, your Croatian roots. And I think your father came over in the late 60s, I think, right?
Yes, that's right. So my grandparents were in Yugoslavia, and they were, ethnically Croatian. And it was around the late 60s when my grandfather began to outsource to Germany, where he worked as a laborer, and he would send back money to the family. And so eventually my grandmother, my baba, moved out with him to Germany, where they were waiting in transit to eventually come to the United States. And that's where my father was born in 1968. And they eventually moved to Chicago, where his 2 younger brothers were eventually born. And so in Chicago, they worked for a couple years, and eventually they made quite the trip and moved to Carlsbad, California, where they opened up the Scandia Motel, so our family business. And that's how my father and the rest of the family came to California.
That's pretty cool. Is the hotel still in business? Is it still up and running? Family business?
It is.
Oh, that's really cool.
It is very cool. So yeah, growing up, we spent a significant amount of time with my grandmother. And so growing up, I would hear all sorts of stories about her life in Croatia. And that was really what made me very excited about the culture. But beyond our family, in the immediate area, there seemed to be, lack thereof of a really, large Croatian community in South Orange County. We were a little bit further away from Los Angeles. So while we did have the Croatian community there, I always felt a little bit, I would say a little bit separate from that. And that's really kind of where my motivations came for the club eventually at UCLA.
Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, because I heard like San Pedro, the LA area is pretty rich. Also, I think it's Waltonville. Did I get that right? It has a pretty big Croatian community. So you were like south of LA, I think, is where you.
South of LA. So Laguna Niguel, I would say on maybe a good day to get to St. Anthony's. Get to LA. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Oh wow.
So it can be a little further, but of course, growing up, raising a family, making that trip consistently becomes challenging, of course.
But you were actually baptized. Your parents were married in St. Anthony's?
So they were married in St. Anthony's, and that's where I was baptized. And, we do have, roots in that parish. And so sometimes we've made the drive up, when possible, to attend the church events, which has been really, really exciting and wonderful. We recently had a family reunion there about a year and a half
Oh,
ago, which was lovely. Um,
yeah.
so, kind of in my mind, Los Angeles was this hotspot for Croatian connection and Croatian community, which is actually one of the reasons why I really wanted to go to UCLA to become closer to that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Have you been back to Croatia? Have your parents been back or?
Yes. It's funny, in high school, my best friend, who's actually Swiss, we would travel a lot together. And so she has family in Switzerland, and her family and my family really encourage travel. So we would, work during the school year,
Yeah,
just fun jobs, part-time, and we would save up all of our money and we would go travel. And one of the places we ended up traveling to was Croatia. And
nice.
that was an eye-opening experience that was, so incredible because the stories that I grew up with and the understanding of Croatian culture that I had locally, whether it be in Los Angeles or, my own family in Orange County, it suddenly all came to fruition where I saw, what this was all about and really where it came from. So that was kind of like the aha moment to me, actually going to Croatia with my best friend and her family. And that was something that also solidified my interest as well in starting the club.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. How's the language? Could you get by? Or I'm terrible. I just admit I'll terrible. I can get by, but
I definitely need to improve. I have
yeah.
fragments, phrases, growing up hearing it. But because my mom, is American,
Mhm.
um, I primarily growing up was, speaking with her, speaking English during the day because my father was working a lot.
Yeah.
So aside from visiting my grandmother or that side of the family, there was not, Croatian was not being spoken frequently in the house. But right now, actually, kind of in conjunction with starting this club, that has been a huge interest of mine, improving on language. And that's something I'm figuring out right now, what I want, how I want to improve kind of in like a personal respect.
Yeah. Yeah. Many of us are still trying to figure that out, how to improve. You're not alone. You're not alone. So, yeah. So let's dive into the organization. So was it the trip? You said you kind of alluded to maybe the trip sparked it. Was there other things that sparked it?
Well, there were a couple, there are many things along the way that made me really excited about my heritage and, the Croatian community in general. And a lot of it came from conversations with my father. A few years ago, my grandmother did pass. And so with
Um,
that, it felt a little disenfranchising from the stories and, the insight I really, had through her into the Croatian community. So when I got to UCLA, I got my acceptance letters. One of the first things I did was remember, oh, Los Angeles, this is where, all the Croatian community is. I knew, Los Angeles as this, concentration of Croatians. And so I kind of assumed, UCLA was an extension of that. So one of the first things I did, I Googled, any sort of Croatian-American student organization, and I was really surprised that it didn't exist. And that was a little disappointing, that I had worked really hard to get into the school. I'm so excited to be able to kind of return to, all of this wonderful Croatian community that I thought Los Angeles was. But, upon realizing that it didn't exist, I thought there must be other students like me who were also looking towards an opportunity to connect with other Croatians. And that is why decided to do it myself.
yeah, I tried to Google to see if there's other colleges or universities. I couldn't find anything. You actually may be the first. Maybe there's others out there. I don't know, but I couldn't find them, and they usually pop up. But yeah, congrats to you. So talk to us about the organization, what you want it to be, or how you want to shape it, and where you want to see kind of it go.
Absolutely. My vision for this club is twofold. The first being that I want to really establish and continue to foster a Croatian-American student community here on campus. So I really want to make an effort to unite Croatian-Americans. I want to unite international students who have, either a background in Croatia or, even if they're studying abroad. And I want to invite all students who, might be interested in learning about our culture. And I want it to be a continuation for me to be able to continue learning from other Croatian students about their families and their background. And so the second part to that is I want to go beyond just UCLA. I want to be able to connect, my club members and my students, I guess fellow students, to some of the larger Croatian events in the community, whether it be from St. Anthony's, whether it be, from, other events. I really want to make an effort to, kind of create this concentration of Croatian students here at UCLA and help connect them. Perhaps they're not as familiar with, the large community of Croatians in Los Angeles. I want to help connect them to the broader community.
Yeah, you have some great events coming up with the World Cup, and out. I think there's going to be a game out there. I could be wrong, but I think there's going to, or at least a viewing. I know they're having these city viewing things in San Pedro. I think is one of those where they're going to have a viewing for the World Cup, some of the World Cup games. So that could be exciting.
Wow.
And tying back to St. Anthony's. I mean, if you could get the Cola group there, right? If you had a Croatian day, it's in June. The Independence Day is in June, so everybody's gone from school. But you could kind of tie it to something else, right? There's lots of things.
The beauty of UCLA being on the quarter system, we extend into mid-June, so there might be a reality where we can work that out.
I didn't realize that. So you guys go pretty late then.
We go pretty late. Of course, it's offset by starting a little bit later. So we start, mid-September. So it's a little different than the other semester systems.
Yeah. So what are some of the hurdles? I'm assuming you need a sponsor, and is it a budgeting process? Like what are the hurdles for you to start a student organization?
Well, they don't make it easy. I'll tell you that. The number one thing is everything comes down to timing. So I came up with this idea actually when we have a main walkway on a campus called Bruin Walk, and different student organizations will table there sometimes and advertise or flyer about what it is their club does or offers. And I started seeing all of these different other student organizations, minority ethnicity groups, which was all, really fantastic. And that is what reignited, my thought process of starting this club. And this, of course, very inconveniently was about week 2 of this quarter. So I started working, right off the jump, and I went to the administration and I told them my idea, and they were really excited about it. But because I came up with this idea after week 1, I wasn't able to receive funding for this quarter. But they said, go full steam ahead. You can meet, you can function as a club, you can recruit people, but it will not be until the next fall quarter where we receive our funding. The second thing I did is I reached out to, we have a wonderful Croatian professor here on campus, and I cold emailed her, and I kind of pitched this idea. And I said, I think this would be a real exciting opportunity to kind of merge, the international Croatian community here on campus, even though there are not many students, with some of the Croatian American students. And she was very interested in that idea. And so until perhaps we get some more funding, she offered to let us use her room to meet, to watch Croatian movies, to potentially host guest speakers. And so despite the funding challenges for the time being, we are making it work, and we're trying to stay innovative.
That's interesting. Well, I know that USC and UCLA, since they're in the same city, is a little bit competitive, and to say the least. And there's a Croatian film producer, Jack Baric, who is a USC grad, and I think he may be a little jealous that UCLA has the first Croatian-American Student Organization, so we'll have to rib them a little bit. Um, but as well, there's some. I was trying to look up the name. I think it's Steve Bukic. He was a football player at UCLA, and his father was a well-known football player. Not at UCLA, I think he went somewhere else. But maybe we can garner some interest from alums too to support the Croatian-American Student Club. I think that would be amazing if we could do that for you.
Absolutely. We really want to invite anyone and everyone, in our community, who wants to get involved, wants to connect with, the next generation of Croatians. We are really excited about that. And one of I guess I would say the unique challenges right now in this stage of, the club's creation is reaching out and locating other Croatians at UCLA, because it is a very big school. And while that can sometimes, work to our benefit, it can be a little challenging to stand out and to locate the right people who are interested. So that is one of the things we are doing right now. We are using social media. We are using, the word of mouth. And that's, one of the other really unique things about this podcast opportunity, to try to get the word out and reach as many, potential members as possible here at UCLA who have an interest in the club, as well as, potential external speakers, anybody who would like to show up and connect with us.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're happy to help as much as we can to celebrate and market too for you to get some people interested and engaged with you and involved. So, where do you kind of want to see this go on? Future endeavors, personal interests, or club related? Because you are a junior, and I'm assuming you're on track, right?
Yes.
But you're also pre-law, so you're probably looking ahead as well. So there's a lot on your plate right now. Any thought about that, and how do you transition that?
Absolutely. One of the things I have been really looking to emphasize is this is not just a short-term, kind of springboard opportunity for me. This is something that I want to be long-term for, both the broader Los Angeles, Croatian community, but also the students here at UCLA. And so, with that in mind, I really want to be intentional about inviting as many students as possible. So this does not become, a 2-year long club, that this becomes, everlasting. I was actually speaking recently to a friend of mine who is part of, the Armenian student club here on campus, and they have been around since, I want to say, 1941. And so,
Oh, wow.
which was really interesting. And, and there were not that many Armenian students here on campus, but they still managed to kind of keep that alive and keep that long term. And that's just one example of many, many other, student organizations that have managed to, gain traction and stay around long term. And so that's really what we're here to do as well. And then in terms of, me and my goals and what I want to do, this is just the first step I'm looking to take to, stay connected to my heritage, to keep learning about my background and where my family's from. So I just want this to be, the first of many things. Right now, we're working on actually getting our Croatian citizenship, myself and my father,
Oh, really?
which is really fantastic. That is very,
Yeah.
very exciting. So potentially in the future, to work in Croatia for a couple of years before going to law school, to, continue to explore this, that would be, that's kind of where I'm looking towards, in the near future. Because right now I'm anticipating perhaps a year or two of a gap year before going to law school, just to get some work experience, and continue to pursue every opportunity I can before law school.
Yeah, that sounds like a smart move. Enjoy it. Take the gap year. If maybe more, I don't know. You may find yourself loving it over there, and yeah, to have the citizenship as well, you and your father is a plus, too. So, anything you want to add before we wrap up? Any parting thoughts?
I would say, kind of for me, the way I've made sense of my background and my heritage, a lot of it has been through storytelling, listening to my grandmother or my father or just simply other Croatians, which is, part of why this podcast and others like it are so important. And so, kind of when I think about, our club here, Croatian Bruins at UCLA, that is one of the things we're really looking to emphasize. And, as one of the most effective ways of preserving Croatian history. So inviting guest speakers, creating this platform here on campus, not only for our students, but to really, really, connect, members of the greater Croatian community to UCLA. So that is what we're here looking to do as the most effective way of preserving Croatian heritage. And yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. So you got a lot to work on, but I think you're going to do well, and we need to just rally around you. Every Croatian in the area and beyond has to rally around. You may be a Trojan, but maybe being a Bruin for a little bit may be okay to get this organization where it needs to be. So
Yeah.
we're going to root for you. So
Thank you so much. You're always welcome to be a Bruin for a day, even if you're a Trojan.
There you go. Well, Marina, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy class schedule. I know you guys are really busy studying, and you got a lot on your plate, and putting this on as well is just really great that you have the opportunity to do this, and we do really need to support you, because this is what we need. We need youthful enthusiasm to continue to celebrate the Croatian culture and the community, and not only to ourselves, right, but to others, as you said, to bring others along, and that's really important. So congratulations to you, and thank you for taking time to talk to us about that.
Thank you so much for having me and, giving us this platform for our club. And I look forward to tuning in the future and listening to more podcast episodes and staying connected.
Appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to wrap up another episode. So we want to say thank you, Punafala, to all of our CRO-AM followers for tuning in, and to Filthy 46 Productions for their editing and production expertise. So until next time, Živeli Hrvati, veliki poz I Bog. If you have appreciated this interview or past interviews, or if you know of someone that we should interview, please feel free to reach out to us via email at info@croamconnections.com. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, and other podcast platforms, along with watching us on our YouTube channel or following us on Facebook and Instagram at CRO-AM Connections. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, please support all local and non-local Croatian-American events, which you can find on our mobile app. Thanks and appreciation to Marina Artukovic for being our guest and for all the great picks, the Croatian Bruins Student Organization, Filthy 46 Productions, and as always, our CRO-AM followers.
Follow.